Good evening, friends. Again, meeting in the session of Organon philosophy, and we are discussing the Kant's philosophy, the chapter number 32. We have discussed certain aspects of this chapter where he tried to give the value of symptoms. So, after the case taking is finished, we have to go for totality of symptoms, and totality should be analyzed and then evaluate. And how this evaluation should be done, how one should differentiate and categorize symptoms into different groups of symptoms and easily catch what is characteristic in the case, so that that will take as a number one symptom or a differentiating symptom or few, at least three symptoms which will define the remedy, and how one should find it out where this individuality is hidden. That's what he is explaining, because characteristic symptoms characterizes an individual. There are four varieties: the peculiar, the queer, the rare, and strange. And all of them are important. Every peculiarity leads you towards certain group of symptoms. And those are very important, essential from the individualizing the patient. And this is what he wants to highlight in this chapter specifically. And then you have to grade. This is number one, grade two, grade three. And grade one symptoms are always important because they are individualizing the individual. So we have finished up to the paragraph. The symptoms of the remedies must be studied, especially with respect to order on grade. That paragraph, I think we have finished. We just read that and we'll go ahead again. To look upon them as well as alike, because they appear to be all on the same level, is to be unable to make distinction. One symptom with the same physician is good as another. It is a fact that symptoms, to a great extent, are upon a sliding scale. What is peculiar in one remedy is not in any degree peculiar in another. While it may be peculiar in chronic case to have thirst, it is not so in fever. And that which is true in many respects in chronic state may be very opposite in an acute case. The chronic miasms are the very opposite in their character and order to acute miasms. And this is a fact that homeopathic physician must know. And this on this line we have concluded a study. So the states varies in acute disease and chronic disease. Whatever is true in the acute disease might not be true in chronic disease, or whatever true in chronic disease might not be true in acute disease. This variation can happen. And that's why you have to catch that specific state. If the state is acute, you have to match the remedy as an acute remedy. But if the state is chronic, you have to match the chronic remedy. And that's why you have to understand what patient is presenting. If the patient presents as an acute disorder, so weather is changed now, since 3 days, it is as good as that rainy weather is going on. There is dampness in the weather, the rains are there, the cloudiness is there, and suddenly change has happened, and people are suffering, and they are coming with acutes. We have to match with this remedy. It might be rustox, it might be adalcamarite, might be any other depending upon the situation, but you have to consider all those acute states. Then he goes further. If you had a striking case of inflammation of parotid gland, the patient says, do not press upon it because it is very sore. How would you classify that as a common, strange? If you think, but a moment you will see that it would be a very strange thing for the highly inflamed gland not to be sore, and that soreness upon pressure is not something to be prescribed for, but something to be known, to be taken into general view of the case, and remedy indicated in case would be suitable if it have inflammation and soreness of the gland. That is not striking in that. Quite a group of remedies have produced hardness, soreness, tenderness of the gland. Maybe one of them, those, or it may be one which has never produced these things if it have the characterizing features of the patient. So what characterizes is very important. If a sore throat with a sore throat patient comes and throat is acutely inflamed, there is a complete redness, there is burning, there is severe throbbing, there is fever, the patient's carotids are they are striking the patient, and patient is having high grade fever and no thirst. Yes, this state is very important. Then you catch, yes, this is belladonna. But if patient has inflamed tonsils but doesn't have, it shows redness, everything, but they are hypertrophic, not having so much acute pain. It is chronic since last 2 years, 3 years. Such types of tonsils are there. Only problem is difficulty in swallowing. Then you might think of the remedies which have that specific state, a chronic hypertrophy of the tonsils like Barretta carbon. So you have to understand the states, you have to understand the symptomatology, you have to understand the value of symptomatology on the basis of which you have to prescribe. And then he says, in sickness, the symptoms that cannot be explained are often very peculiar. The things that cannot be accounted for are not so often peculiar. Peculiar things are less known to the man. So there are certain things. For example, we'll take one example. I have told you this example that there is a remedy in Allen's keynotes. You have a carbolic acid. Just a minute. I will tell you. Carbolic acid. And in the carbolic acid, number 4 paragraph is that physical exertion, even much walking, brings on abscess in some parts, but generally in right ear, written by R.T. Cooper. Does any significance is there? Can you logically explain? You cannot. Much walking causes abscess in some parts, but specifically in right ear. It doesn't have significance, but peculiar. Very typical. Strange. And then you if it has been present with the patient, then it has a significance. You directly give the carbolic acid. That's all. For instance, a patient can sit only with his feet upon the desk and with his feet elevated. He is a great sufferer, and because of this suffering, he is compelled to put his feet up. The symptom hence will be put down, worse from letting the feet hang down. Well, what do you mean that by that? Why, if I let my feet hang down, I bring the nets down upon chair and there is a great sore place there. Now that is quite a different thing. You may find if it is an old man that he has a large prostate gland which is very painful at times and very sore, and when he lets the feet hanging down, the gland comes in contact with the chair. So we see that the real summing up of the case is that this enlarged and sore prostate gland is worse from pressure, and all you have learned from symptom is that glands is sensitive to touch, which is a common symptom. There are instances, however, where by letting the feet hang down, the patient is ameliorated. For instance, you take the periostitis and pain is relieved by letting the limbs hang. No one can tell why that limb is better when hanging over the bed. He lies across the bed with the foot hanging over the side, and why it is that he cannot lie upon the back, nobody can figure out. Now that condition is found in Konayam, and you will not be astonished after that. You know that Konayam has the symptoms to find all symptoms of your patient, say Konayam. All the rest of them has perhaps are common. He has given example, very good example. If the patient feels better by hanging down, you don't know why. There is no logical reasoning. But patient lies down and how he lies down? He sleeps on the cot or sofa and keeps the limbs down because he feels better. If he feels better in this manner, then conine is the remedy because that is the characteristic feature of the conine. If patient is having a severe pain in lower extremity and it gets aggravated by hanging down, then you might think, yes, doctor, I'm having severe pain in my leg and I cannot keep them down. I have to keep it up. I feel better. Then the edema disappears, the swelling disappears. Then you might think of Vipera. And one more example which he has mentioned over there, that if patient says that I'm feeling better when I keep the head legs elevated. Then you ask why. And if the answer is that I get the pain in my prostate as soon as I keep the legs down, then it indicates that prostate gets pressurized and the pain develops. So you have to understand why that modality is there. If it is inexplainable, it has a significance. It becomes peculiar. If it is explainable, then it is common. Because prostate enlargement always has a pain whenever it touches, and that thing becomes common. So question is why the patient is telling you the modality. Understand that if that modality doesn't have any logical relation, then definitely it has a significance. And then further he says, now when you think along this line of science, it will not take you long to get into the habit of estimating among the symptoms that appear in record the things that are common, the things that you would expect, and things that are strange. So if you go with your cases, then you develop this knowledge. Yes, what is common and what is strange. What is common and what is peculiar. What is common and what is queer. What is common and what is rare. If you are able to catch all those things, then it is quite easy for you to find it out, this PQRS, and match the remedy. Again, we see that there are certain symptoms in the remedies that are general. And on the other hand, the symptoms that are general must also be taken into account in order to examine any report. All the things that are predicated of the patient himself are things that are general. All the things that are predicated of any given organ are the things that are the things in particular. So we see how there are things in general and things common and things particular. Sometimes it may be condition or state, sometimes it may be symptom. We have said that what the patient predicates of himself will generally appear to you to be at once something in general. When the patient says, I am thirsty, as a matter of fact, although he feels that thirst is in the morning, yet it is the whole economy that craves the water. And here he explains what is the importance of general symptom. On day one, we have discussed the difference between general symptom and particular symptom. General symptoms are the symptoms which are related to the person as a whole and which are denoted by the prefix I. I am thirsty, I am hungry. Whenever I am drowsy, I got such and such dreams. All symptoms which are related to the person as a whole and denoted by the prefix I are always the symptoms which are called to be a general symptoms. And these are all general symptoms. Generals are more important than particulars unless and until the particular becomes characteristic. If any particular symptom is characteristic, then it might have importance more than a general. And this is what he wants to highlight over there. So generals are always more important than particular unless and until the particular becomes characteristic. The things of which he say, I feel, are apt to be generals. The patient says, I have so much burning. And if you examine him, you find that his head burns and the skin burns and there is a burning in anus, burning in urine, and whatever region is affected. It, whatever region is affected burns. You find the word burning in general feature is a general feature that modifies all his sickness. If it were only in one organ, it would be particular. But these things that relate to the whole of the man are things in general. So he explains that there are certain things. For example, patient has a burning sensation in three different parts. Then you make it general. That is called as grand generalization. So patient has a burning in head, at the same time burning in eye, at the same time burning in stomach. And he says that every time I feels better by application of cold. So you make it as a general because it is more than three parts are having the same symptoms. So burning in general, ameliorated by cold application. So here you have done a generalization of a particular symptom called as grand generalization, and which will be useful for you while using the Bonning-Hussein's therapeutic pocketbook. Because in Bonning-Hussein's therapeutic pocketbook, there are not separate chapters on particular organs. There is a location chapter, there is sensation chapter, there is a modality chapter, all are general. So you have to find it out in general, second chapter, second part, sensations, burning sensation. You have to find it out in chapter of modalities ameliorated by cold. And then you have to match those rubrics. This is how the Bonning-Hussein's therapeutic pocketbook is used. And for that purpose, the things you have to generalize. If it is present in more than 2 or 3 parts, it becomes a general. Again, when the patient tells things of his affection, he gives us things that are most general. When he speaks of his desires and aversions, we have those things that relate so closely to the man himself that changes in these things will be marked by the changes in his very ultimates. When the man arrives at the state that he has an aversion to life, we see that that is general symptom and that permeates his economy. That symptom qualifies all symptoms and is the very center of all his states and conditions. When he has desire to commit suicide, which is the loss of love of his life, we see that that is in his very innermost. Medicines affect man primarily by disturbing his affections, by disturbing aversions and desire. The thing that he loved to do are changed, and now he craves strange things. Or the remedy changes his ability to comprehend and turns into life into the state of contention and disturbance. It disturbs his will and may bring upon him troublesome dreams, which are really mental states. See, very nicely he has explained the importance. Day one, we have discussed how the evaluation should. Common method is that generals are more important than particulars.
Sir, low voice, sir.
Generals are just a minute. Might be because of some.
Sir, your audio is mute, sir.
Just a minute. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir. Now it is clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. On day one, we have discussed the flow, that is, generals are more important than the particulars. And in the generals, the mental generals are more important than physical generals. Again, we have done that in the generals, mental generals, we have categorized into 3 types. First, will and emotions. Second grade, intellect and understanding. Third grade is memory. So Kent is saying over here, if the patient wants to commit suicide, he doesn't want to live. What is affected is will. Most important inner core of the human life. Take that first, because if you are able to save him, then you can do anything. And that's why it should be taken as first symptom in the evaluation. Most important if the things are related with the will. And this is what he is explaining over there. Then comes the physical gender. If the cravings and desire that are changed after the disorder, then you can take. But more important is will if it is affected. Or the remedy changes his ability to comprehend and turns his life into the state of contention and disturbance. It disturbs his will and may bring upon troublesome dreams, that which are really mental states. Dreams are so closely allied to the mental state that he may well say, I dreamed last night. That is general state. The things that lie closest to man and his life and his vital force are things that are strictly general, and as they become less intimately related to the man, they become less and less general until they become particular. So he is giving importance of general symptoms in the evaluation. Generals are more important that in the evaluation, and specifically mental generals are always so much important. So generals indicates individuality. Particulars never indicates individuality unless they becomes characteristic. So this is very important. If you get symptoms related with the dreams, yes, very important, because they are closely related to the human life. If you get symptoms related with emotions, they are very much closely related to the human life. And this is what he is explaining out there. And to conclude this chapter, he explains in this last paragraph. The menstrual period gives us a state which may call general. The woman says, I menstruate, and so and so. She does not attribute it to her ovaries or to her uterus. Her state is, in as a rule, different when she is menstruating. So things that are predicated of self and of the ego, the things described as I do so and so, doctor, I feel so and so, I have so much of thirst, I am so chilly at every change of weather, I suffocate in warm room, etc. These are all generals. The things that are general are the first in importance. See, underline this sentence. The things which are general should be of first importance. So, menstruation, general, urination, general, defecation, general, dreams, general, sleep, generals, and generals are more important because they are closely allied to the human life. The things that are general are the first in importance. After these have been gathered, you may go on taking up each organ and ascertaining what is true of each organ. Many times you will find that the modalities of each organ conforms to the general. Sometimes, however, there may be modalities of the organs which are particular that are opposed to the general. Hence, we find in the remedies that appear to have in one subject one thing and in another subject the opposite of that thing. In one, it will be general, in another, it will be particular. So, to conclude the chapter, he is explaining the importance of general. After once you get the generals, then you can go for the particulars. But if you get generals, you go close to the remedy because generals defines the individuality more than particular. So in this part one of this chapter, there are two chapters dedicated for the value of symptom. In this first chapter, he gives importance of general symptoms as compared to the particular symptom. That's the conclusion. Then tomorrow we'll continue with the next chapter and then we'll understand what he wants to say more than that. So that's all for today. And today we're going to learn in the evening at 8 o'clock the Cinchona officinalis, the first remedy the Hahnemann have proved. So be there at 8 o'clock with the Cinchona or China. So that's all for today. If any query is there, we'll have a chat. Otherwise, we'll conclude. So we'll conclude with the session when we'll meet at 8 o'clock. Thank you.